one of the darkest chapters in Kenya's 50-year history unfolded in the 1980s when the government turned to forced detention and torture as means of stifling political and social dissent.
Now, the centerpiece of the government's strategy was the Nyayo house torture chambers, and the longest-serving detainee in this horror house was Israel Agina, political operative associated with the Odinga family, who racked up 96 days without succumbing to the state's coercion. KTN's Nyanza-based reporter Fredo Mulo caught up with the Agina, who recounted the horrors of his days under custody.
2 decades in the life of Israel Agina characterized the quality of leadership that Kenya has had. In 1969, as the first Kenyatta administration descended into autocracy, he was the first person to be jailed for sedition, a term of 4 years. But if the first experience was painful, what befell him in September 1986 was simply horrific.
They took me to Parklands police station, where they held me up to about 8 o'clock. Then they came back for me and took me to Nyayo house on that same day, and I was to stay there for about 96 days.
Fresh from exile after the government extended an amnesty, Agina landed in Kenya at the height of the Kenya agitation that had turned the state super paranoid.
I was subjected to torture, beatings, denial of food, denial of sleep, and being kept in waterlogged rooms for hours and days without food.
The routine was simple. New detainees were treated gently and urged to confess to trumped-up charges. As time went by, however, the methods of extracting a confession would become more savage.
There are times you are stripped naked and kept in the cell, and during the interrogation, they beat you. First of all, they ask if you know any of them. If you don't know them, then they proceed with the torture and the beating.
They beat you every day for 3 days?
Yeah.
Then after that, you put in one of the waterlogged cells.
So first you're sprayed with water, cold water, and then they shut the door.
In between sessions in waterlogged cells, detainees would be whisked blindfolded to the top floor, where a panel of police officers would conduct interrogations. Agina refuses to name them, some of whom later rose to positions of power and influence.
One of them was an MP recently, I think it's from Meru, the last parliament.
What's he doing?
I don't know. You know, I forgave them because they were doing things that they didn't believe in themselves. And they were trying to show the regime that they were working.
Exasperated at Agina's resolve, the government gave up and instead served him detention orders, after which he was taken to Kamiti, Manyani and Shimolatewa prisons. Released after 17 months in 1988, he was soon rearrested, tortured at Nyayo house for 7 days, and jailed as the state dealt with a new threat, Koigi wa Mwere.
We used to tell somebody like Kilonzo that if we come out, we are going to retire him. But he said, even if you retire me, you'll require other policemen to enforce law, because you'll be wanting to be protected. And we said, no, we shall not want any protection from policemen like you.
After all these experiences, Agina never ran for political office, focusing instead on a firm he had started with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in 1973, East African Spectra. 2 years ago, he won a case against the state and was awarded 2 million shillings in compensation for the unlawful torture and detention. Despite the time lost, today he is busy managing his portfolio of businesses. From Kisumu City, I am Fredo Mulo.